Okay, as you're working with JavaScript, you'll potentially interface with the document object model that's contained within HTML. And a lot of people have trouble understanding objects. So I'm going to create a very simple object example here to demonstrate it. Now, this is C sharp, so you may not understand the programming language, but the concept should be easy to follow. I'll come over here, right click, and I'll choose add, and I'll drop on a new item. And class is what I want, and I want to define a Star Wars character. Star Wars character. Now, this is going to be a generic definition of Star Wars character. Now, here's the class Star Wars character. I think about what does a Star Wars character have? Well, it has a name. So, string means it can be letters, numbers, any kind of character. I'll have speed associated with it, and I'll make that an integer. Integer is a number with no decimals, and I'll have a jump height. Maybe age. So you define all of these variables. Different programming languages call this different things. Some call them class variables. But anyway, those are the variables that's associated with that particular generic object. Now down here, I'm going to create something called a constructor. And it'll be a public, and then you make it the same name as your class. And this right here might set all these to default. So I might set my name equal to blank, speed equals 0, jump height equal to 0, age is equal to 0. Now you can have a constructor is where you create an instance of the Star Wars character, and you can have more than one constructor, so you can have different parameters you can pass in. So I could have another constructor where I pass in the name. I'll call it P name for parameter name. I can pass in the speed, and I'll call it P speed. I'll pass in double P jump height, and I'll pass in integer pH. Now, since I'm passing those in as parameters, I can set them equal to my class variables. So name is equal to P name, speed is equal to P speed, jump height is equal to P jump height, and what was my other one? Age is equal to P8 or page. So hopefully it wasn't anything inappropriate what I said in any of that. Sometimes I make up these on a fly; it doesn't come quite right. But anyway, that creates an instance. So over here in my main program, if I wanted to create a character, I would say Star Wars character, and let me choose Chewbacca, that furry guy off of Star Wars. Then I do equals new, and Star Wars character, like that. Now, if I left that blank like that, this creates an instance of Star Wars character. So it comes over there and looks at this and says, "Hey, there's no parameters." So the one it runs is this one over here with no parameters. Now, these I didn't make them public. Let me come back up here and make them public. I never get everything quite right the first time, like that. By making those public, then over here, I can access those class variables directly. So I can say Chewbacca.name is equal to, and you probably didn't know this, interesting information you're learning today. His full name is Chewbacca Smith. Chewbacca dot, what's another class for age? He's I don't know, 200 years old, I guess. Chewbacca dot speed 3. This is like if I'm programming a game. What's the other one I had? Jump height. Jump height is equal to 4.2. This allows us to reuse the code, such that if I want to create another Star Wars character, Han Solo, then I can. So down here, I could say Star Wars character Han equals new Star Wars character. And now I can pass parameters in. So I can pass in Han Solo, or not there, and then comma, what's the next one? Speed. So speed, he's a little faster than Chewbacca, let's say. He can jump higher, maybe 5.1. And age, say he's 35. So instead of setting these class variables in this manner, I can pass them in as a parameter. Now this one, when it goes and creates this instance, the constructor is looking at is the one with these 4 parameters, which happens to match this one right here. Now you notice I did not have to redo that code. The code is already written. So you could write code and you could have 100 Star Wars characters. My son used to play a Lego Star Wars game, and it could reuse all of the same code. Now, I haven't done anything exciting over here like create a method, but you can have a public void. Void means nothing's returned, and I can have the character run. And I'm not going to have this do anything exciting besides just print to the screen. Console.WriteLine and name plus just ran at this speed plus speed. In reality, if you're programming a game, when you call the run, this would maybe cause your character to move on a screen. And so you define this. This is how, like for a Call of Duty game, they come out with the Call of Duty game once a year, I think, maybe twice a year, I don't remember. But once a year, let's say. And they come up with it so quickly. It's because they don't have to reinvent the wheel. They got these methods already defined on how a character moves around in a Call of Duty game. So they just reuse the code. And if you have it set up correctly with classes and with your methods and everything, then coming up with a new game is basically just coming up with new maps. Okay, so then over here, I can have Han run. I do a dot, and then I see run there. Now, this is actually poor coding. I'm doing it just to do it quick, but typically you do not make these public. You make them private. See, if I made this private, then the only place I can update this is within this class here. Over here, you see now age has got a little red squiggly under it. It means I can't update it there. You may wonder, well, what use is it if you can't update it in another program? Well, typically you have gets and sets for your age. For example, down here, I would have, see if I can get this right, public settings, so I'm not returning anything. So void set age. I'm going to pass in age, a parameter. I should have did an underscore. And here I'll say age is equal to my pH. Now get age, where I can print or return the value to the program. Let's see, age is an integer, so I'm going to return int, get age. And all this does is simply do a return age. I got something wrong. No, it worked. So now over here, if I want to set Chewbacca's age, I say Chewbacca.set age, and he's 200 years old. What this does is it allows you to control the interface into your instance, into your object you created. And so you can't have programmers doing wild things and so forth. You control exactly how it's called. And this set age may be more than just one line of code that I have over here. You could have 100 lines of code. It might look things up in databases, all kinds of possibilities. Now I want to show one more item. I want to extend a Star Wars character because we got a droid, which is a Star Wars character. So I'll come over here, I'm going to right click on that and choose add new item, class, and I'm going to call this droid.cs. Click add. And then for the class droid here, I'm going to put a colon Star Wars character. What this does is this is going to bring everything in from the Star Wars character. So all of our class variables that we created, all the methods we have over there are going to come in. And maybe the only thing I put over here is a new method, public void talk to the computer. Because this is something that would be unique to like R2D2. And I'm not going to do anything exciting. I'm just going to print out the name just spoke to the computer. Like that. Okay. So this again is inheriting all that, or not inheriting, but it's extending it. It's the correct C#, I believe. So I come over here, and I'm going to declare a droid R2D2 equals new droid. Now, if I did that, it would default everything to like blanks or zeros. So again, we could pass in R2D2's full name, R2D2 Blackburn, my mother's maiden name, comma, what's the next thing? Age? No, it wasn't age. No memory. Well, whatever that number represents. And then 3.2 and 42. And does not take a constructor. Oh, okay. Never mind. I'll do that, and then I'll set the. I have to do a little bit more work to be able to do what I just tried to do. Name is equal to R2D2 Blackburn. Notice I'm accessing those variables, and they were not defined over here in Droid. We didn't have anything defined over here besides just saying that it extends this. And then R2D2 dot age. I guess I got to set the age. And how old's R2D2? 75 years old. R2D2 speed. R2D2 goes slow. R2D2 dot, what's the other one? Jump height. R2D2 can't jump. So 0. Now I could do a dot run, and that accesses the method over the Star Wars character, or that new method I put in. I can do R2D2 dot talk to the computer. And so now if I run this, Han Solo just ran at this speed 5, R2D2 Blackburn just ran at this speed 2, R2D2 Blackburn just spoke to the computer. So this shows you through a simple text-based game setup how objects could be used. So if I have 100 Star Wars characters, I generically over here in the Star Wars character define what's specific to all those. Then I go to the types, like droids can do something unique that other people can't, or other objects can't, or other characters can't from the game. From the game. I was thinking movie. It can talk to the computer. I could create another class that would be the Empire. Maybe there's something unique about the Empire characters that others can't do. So, and same idea. Anyway, I hope this gives you an idea of the power of objects. And that same document object model does exist in HTML, and you interface it with JavaScript. And understanding that document object model, that hierarchical breakdown, will help you to learn how to program that. Now you can program it without fully understanding the DOM, the document object model. But if you want to do anything more complex, it really does benefit to understand that.